This is going to be a short introduction on improvising in a classical style. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the idea of improvising when it comes to blues or rock or jazz. You're playing scales, you're improvising basically a line or a melody over a pre-existing chord progression or bass line. In this method, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be doing full harmonies all at once, taking them wherever we want, and kind of doing the bass and the harmonies and the melodies all at once. And what surprises people is this actually used to be a foundational core part of keyboard training, going all the way back to the 16th century and all the way up until the end of the 19th century. Every composer that you can think of, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Brahms, Chopin, Debussy, every single one of these guys was a very accomplished and trained improviser. The other thing that surprises people is actually how simple and easy this stuff is. The prerequisite knowledge for learning these patterns and shapes is basically knowing the names of the notes on the keyboard pretty well. You don't need to know any scales, you don't need to know any chords, you don't really need to know anything, because these patterns are really, really musically intuitive and surprisingly easy to learn. So the first harmony that we're going to play is this. And I would recommend playing it with two hands just like I'm doing. Play a single note in the left, two notes on the right. It makes it easier to move these shapes around. Now this is called a C5 chord. It's called C because C is in the bass. It's the lowest note of the chord, and I'm playing that with the left hand. And it's called a 5 chord because it's 5 notes wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has a third note in the middle, so you'll have to know that. That's not part of the name, but it does make it easier to say. That's a C5. Now the only other type of chord we're going to play is a 6 chord. Here's a C6. This is just a little bit wider. It still has that note that's a skip up from the bottom, but now it has a bigger skip on the top. There's C5 and there's C6. We can play these chords anywhere. So we could play a B6, for example. B is the bass. There it's 6 notes wide. It still has that small skip. There's A6 and G6 and F6. 6 chords are great for moving around. In terms of 5 chords, we're only going to play one 5 chord. We're just going to play a 5 chord when we're on C. Any other note is going to get a 6 shape. Okay? And that's actually, believe it or not, enough to create an improvisation at the beginning. And so the pattern for this improvisation is going to be, we're going to find our way back to C5 from farther and farther away each time. So first we're going to start on C5, and then play B6 and C5. And this is a great way to start an improvisation. It's just a short little move back to the C. Now let's go a little bit farther away. Let's start 2 steps down on A6 and come back to C and repeat that again. Okay, and now let's end it by doing a really long one. Let's go all the way from E and do that one more time. Same shape, 6, 6, and then we're on C5. Now, you'll notice that I always went down below the C and was climbing up to it. If we want to climb down from above, we usually don't end up on the C5. And the reason for that is it sounds a little awkward. If you listen to that top note, it creates a little bit of an awkward melody, because really the ear expects something like that to happen. But that's an easy fix. Instead of playing C5 at the end, we're going to play C8. However you want to stretch that is fine. But that's a C on the bottom and a C on the top. Same middle note as the 5 though. So a small skip there, and then this big skip over 4 keys and a C on top. Again, the only place we're going to play this is on C, so you just have to remember how to make it on C. Now when do we use it? When we're coming down from up above. So let's say we start from D, and then we go down to the C, and we play that chord. And it's just a little bit smoother to do that than to do this. Subtle difference, but these subtle differences can make a big difference over the course of the whole piece. Okay, let's do the same thing again. We're going to start from close to C and come back. We're going to keep coming back to C, but from farther and farther away. So here's C. We'll do that again. D. Now let's go up to F. Coming down, E6, D6, and C. We'll do it one more time. even farther away, A. Let's come back to F and keep going down. Let's do that one more time. A6, G6, F6, E6, F6, E6. So there is your template. I'm going to do another improvisation where I'm not going to talk quite as much, and I'm going to add a little bit more in terms of rhythm, a little bit more in terms of breaking the chords up. You don't have to play the chords simultaneously like this. You can play them one note at a time and break them up into a little rhythmic pattern. That's called arpeggiation. And that's a way that you can really turn up the movement and the interest of these harmonic progressions very, very easily, because you're not going to be playing any different notes. You're just like moving your fingers a little bit out of order or out of rhythm. You're still keeping the rhythm, but you're not playing everything quite as coordinated. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit longer improvisation where I'm going to start from below, I'm going to start from above. I'm always going to be coming back to C5 or to C8, depending on whether I come from above or below. And I'm going to be adding arpeggiation, but it's going to be all the same stuff. So let's start on C. I'm going to do that arpeggiation on every chord. So here's our C5. And we'll start close. B6, coming back to C5. I'll do it again. And I'm going to go above D. And when I come back down, that means I got to come to the 8. And I'll start higher, F. To C, now from below, A, B, C, now way lower, F, G, A, B, C, jump up to F, now I'm changing a little faster, F, E, D, C, F, E, D, C. And that's it. So for practice, just fill out slips of paper, use a spinner or dice or whatever you want, but to pick out random notes to start from and get back to C. First, try just going from below, because that's a little bit easier. The C5 is a little bit easier to find than the C8. So practice going from B to C, and then A to C, and then G to C, and so on and so forth. Then practice going from above, and then make a little plan for your improvisation. You can say, well, I'm going to go from G up to C, and then I'm going to go G down to C, and then I'm going to go F down to C, and that'll be my whole thing. And then practice with different arpeggiations. Now, if you've got the technical chops for it, you can get pretty complex with the arpeggiations and play things a little bit faster, so, you know. Like that. That's still that simple stuff. I'm just kind of stepping on the gas a little bit more. But yeah, that's a good start. So we haven't gotten into any black keys, we haven't gotten into any modulations, we haven't gotten into thicker textures, but already we're at least at the level of kind of like a simple prelude or a minuet. So next time I'm going to go into introducing what's called modulation, going into different keys, some slightly kind of fancier chords, expanding it out into a richer sound too by adding doublings. But for now, just keep it simple and have fun with just these simple patterns.